Hello and welcome back to the You Show Show. It is the show where you show things. Today I am your host. I keep forgetting to introduce myself because I don't want to talk about myself. I am your host, Kelvin Laser McMurray, and today I am joined again by my very good friend Zeke, aka Stephanie Adrian. Hello, Zeke.
Hello, Calvin.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome back to the studio. It's good to have you back. You're definitely, I'm gonna stop while I'm ahead. It's good to have you back. Thanks for being here, Zeke. Today, we are gonna talk about Schitts Creek.
Yes.
That was the show that you picked. That's effectively what this show is. It's just show and tell for adults. I mean, let's be real. That's all this is.
No, it totally is.
We're standing in front of the class holding up, the box that our parents got us over the weekend. But
I love this thing. You should also enjoy this thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a place of passion, if I can talk. But yeah, last episode we talked about F is for Family, a family TV show that's interesting. And now we are going to talk about another family TV show, a very popular and very well done TV show, Schitts Creek. And in case anybody may not know, it's SCHITT''S, which is a very, very clever and funny title to get away with that on television.
Yes.
So you shared the show with me. I only got through the first season. That's as far as I got. I would like to finish it, and we can kind of briefly talk about later seasons later on. But I did really like the show. Thank you for sharing it with me. I don't know if I would have watched it had we not done this, but I don't say that in a bad way. I'm just not, to be honest, I'm not a huge television person. Most of my television experience comes through my girlfriend and mutual friend of ours, Nat. She's the TV pro, and so most of my TV experience comes through her. And she's not huge on sitcoms, so I don't know if I would have ever watched this out of my own experiences. But I'm glad, long story short, that I did. So I guess why, of all the TV shows in the world, why did you pick this one? Why Schitts Creek?
Well, see, here's the funny thing. This is not a show that I would have watched myself either.
Okay.
Because I'm also not usually like, well, no, that's not true. There's a lot of sitcoms I like, but a friend of mine said, you have to watch this. You just have to watch this. And it's because I really like Eugene Levy.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, oh my God, it's so funny. You have to watch it. Well, it's Corey. I think you know Corey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked it up, and then I couldn't stop watching it. And I started watching it when I was pregnant, which was 2018. And actually, like in the last day or two, I was like, oh God, I got to go back and rewatch the first season. I don't remember. But I was pregnant, and I think I was very emotional at the time. And this was such easy, crunchable popcorn television to watch, but it was so good. And I don't know, I just love it so much. But part of the reason I picked it was because it was something that I knew you guys wouldn't have necessarily watched.
Yeah. The only show similar that I've ever watched is How I Met Your Mother.
Mm-hmm.
I went and partied with my two good friends one night, Ben and Isabel, and we partied all night long. We got super drunk, and I fell asleep on their couch, and I woke up and they cooked me breakfast, and they just started watching How I Met Your Mother. We just started watching it, and we sat there on their couch literally the whole day and just watched that show. And I really liked it. So after I left that day, it's on Netflix, and I finished through it. Anyway, that's like another sitcom related show where, again, I get what you're saying. It hooks you, but because it's for simpler reasons. And I say that
right.
as a good thing.
It's just a feel good kind of thing. And when I said I don't normally watch sitcoms, I was like, oh, but I love How I Met Your Mother and New Girl. And I usually just go through one at a time, But yeah, Schitt's Creek was something that I binged, and so I have an abhorrence for embarrassment comedy.
Okay, all right.
Right? Like I don't know if I fall into that highly sensitive person category when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I can't stand to watch somebody get embarrassed over and over again. I don't watch Ben Stiller movies. Like I can't do that. Partially because I'm just going, why? Why would you let this happen to you? Do you not see this coming? But what I love about Schitt's Creek is that it's a panacea for that in my mind, because they get put in these situations that have really high potential for embarrassment.
Yes.
But then they kind of turn out okay. Like there's a normal level of embarrassment and not this like, I'm going to go hide under a rock and never speak to anybody again kind of embarrassment. But it's
played straight.
It's played really straight, and it's you think it's going to go really bad, and then it just like doesn't.
It works out, but
everything kind of works out. Maybe not in the way you thought it was going to,
yeah.
or that it quote unquote should, but it does kind of all work out.
Yeah, it doesn't follow the tropes again of like, oh, Susie learned her lesson. That's not this show. It's
no, because nobody learns their lesson.
Yes, exactly. It is a show. Everybody, at least in the first season, is even the characters of the town, and then the Rose family, and we'll get into a quick synopsis, I guess, here in a minute, but everybody is effectively the same at the end as they were in the start. And again, I don't say that as a problematic thing. That's just how it is.
It's kind of like, and it's okay.
You're
exactly. Just going to be this person. Like they don't, there is a lot of change that happens. The characters grow.
Yes.
Having watched the rest of the show, I haven't finished the final season, which just came out on Netflix, but they do grow, but they're still, they maintain their essential themness.
Yep. I guess what's the show generally about? I guess let's start there. About? Yeah.
So this show opens in a giant McMansion.
Yes.
With this very wealthy family who is being raided by the IRS.
Immigration?
Revenue.
Mrs. Rose, there are people here from the government.
Because they're the person that, and I like this because it's not that they did something wrong, but the person that they entrusted to handle their money never paid their taxes.
Yep.
And then stole a bunch of their money and absconded. So they're sat down by the person, I guess, who's handling their finances now, and they say, like, there's a small amount of money for you to live on, and then there's this one property that the IRS deemed to be worthless. And it comes out that there's a father, Johnny, and his wife Moira, and then the two kids who are adults, David and Alexis. And Johnny had bought a town as a joke for David called Schitts Creek in the middle of nowhere. And David is like, I love the conversation they have, because David's like, you actually bought it? And his dad's like, yeah, I gave you the deed. How else would I get the deed? And Alexa says, you could Photoshop it. And he's like, why would I Photoshop it when I could just buy it? Anyway.
You bought a small town in 1991, Johnny.
Yes, I bought that as a joke for my son.
Wait, you actually purchased that town?
Yes, I purchased the town. How else could I get the deed?
You could have photoshopped the
and
deed.
Save the money.
Why would I Photoshop a deed? The joke was owning the town.
Stop.
That was the joke.
Oh my God.
Well, that was the joke.
To Johnny's credit, this town might just be your saving grace.
So the stupid thing is like nobody knew that they actually bought it, but they're saying this is their saving grace. You can move to Schitt's Creek and live there essentially for free because you don't have any money and you can afford it. And so they move there. But of course, like Moira is amazing.
Yes.
So, but they're packing up and trying to take what they can to go there. And they end up in this middle of nowhere podunk town where they have to stay in this tiny motel that is very run down.
Mm-hmm.
But they're so used to this lap of luxury, and they are assholes like across the board. All four of them are just rich, entitled jerks who are just used to this completely different way of life than what is happening in this like small town.
Mm-hmm. And right out of the gate, I mean, that's like obvious thing number one. They land in the town. They're not even at a hotel. It is a motel, and a very, very rundown one at that.
Yeah.
They meet.
It is every door opens to the outside motel.
Yep. And then they get the adjoining rooms with the door in the middle, and right away, you meet Stevie, who actually is my favorite character out of the whole show. I love Stevie, but you meet Stevie. She is the como se dice, like the receptionist, the front desk clerk.
She works the front desk, but she's also cleans the rooms. Like she runs the motel. Like
she's
the only staff really.
Cleans and then like organizes and probably is like the manager. She runs the hotel, but it's not hers, and or motel, and like right away, they're like, oh, we want like fresh bath towels delivered, to our room. We're in room, whatever. We're in room 28. And she's just like, yeah, I'll make sure to get you fresh bath towels. And what I liked about her character right off the bat too is like she just rolls with it. She's just like...
She's so sarcastic, though. She's just like... In that first episode, David comes in, the son, and he's like, I know this is a stupid question, but do you have a business center? And she's like, oh, yeah, it's right out the door to the left next to the spa.
Yep. And right next to our gourmet coffee maker, and it's just a coffee pot, like...
You're welcome to access our espresso bar, and it's like shitty 3-day-old coffee.
Yes. And so then, like... They're in the small town, and the only like I don't know if hesitancy is the right word. The only kind of like, oh my gosh, is when I started the show, I was just like, oh, this is just going to be a show about a rich family with a bunch of dumb hicks, and like the dumb hicks are going to be the stupid, wrong, weird ones the entire time. But I was very happy that I was wrong, because the show does kind of say, well, like, no, there's idiots on both sides. Trust us,
Oh yeah. Well, the first person that they encounter when they come into town is the mayor, who's, what is this? Roland Schitt.
Roland Schitt.
God, the fucking names are so good.
Yep.
And who is the guy that plays Roland? Do you know?
That is Chris Elliott.
Who's just like fantastic.
Yes.
And he obviously, I watched the first season. He obviously has like a pillow shoved in his shirt to make him look like he has a beer gut, but it's so low budget. Like it's very funny.
And I like Chris Elliott. I think he's a funny actor. The only thing with him, this is just a quick little bunny trail, is that he plays a funny character, but he's always kind of the same character.
Right, yeah.
So if you've seen him in anything else, if you haven't seen Schitts Creek, you pretty much, you already know his character. He's the creepy kind of hillbilly guy. Not kind of, he's a hillbilly. He's not a hill. I don't know. But anyway, who's just that very bizarre character who wants nothing more than to put the other characters around him in the most uncomfortable positions as humanly possible. And then the funny thing is yeah, he's the mayor of the town.
Right. And like he's the mayor because of family lineage, not because he like anybody particularly thinks he's capable of leading.
It's just like his turn to do it. It's like his job. Yeah, his dad did it, now it's his turn. And then then they wind up in the town, and I guess I don't think they ever mention in the first season what the Rose's family business was. Am I crazy?
Not really, no, but he does at one point, because he talks about Rose Video. He essentially owned a chain of Blockbusters.
I didn't catch that.
He mentions it. They do part of the trope of this is that like the parents are completely disconnected from the kids. Like they have this whole conversation at one point, Moira and we should probably mention that Moira was, who plays Moira?
Catherine O'Hara.
Right, who was the mom in Home Alone.
Yep. And she was in Beetlejuice. And then she was also married to Eugene Levy, also in the movie, oh my gosh, the dog movie. Oh my gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Best in Show. They are a married couple in Best of Show. which I love that movie. If you haven't seen Best of Show, stop everything you're doing, quit your job.
Go watch that, then come back and listen to this.
Yeah, go watch. Yes, exactly. Because okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of cutting you off. Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara in Best of Show were hilarious. And then now in Schitts Creek, seeing them together again, right away, I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, I could probably just watch a show that is nothing but those two people for 28 minutes straight, just sitting in a hotel room like drinking wine. I'd watch that TV show in a heartbeat. So they're the parents. So I'm sorry, we were talking about the family business. They're the Rose family that have come to the town of Schitts Creek.
Right. And also, I mean, while we're talking about the actors, David is played by Daniel Levy too. So it's Eugene and his son who are the creators and also star as the father and son. So anyway,
something that I actually didn't pick up on until almost the end of season 1, which is kind of funny. I was like, oh, that's his son.
You didn't see the eyebrows? I mean, oh my God, they're so much like each other. It's so funny. You see them standing next to each other, and you're just like, obviously, you guys are actually related.
Once I saw it, it stood out, but no, like I said, I'm kind of an idiot for stuff like that.
You're fine.
It took me a minute, because I kept noticing at the end of each episode, it said created by Eugene Levy and Dan Levy, and I was like, oh, is that his brother? And then that's when I hopped on the internets, and the internets revealed that no, indeed, it's his son, and he also plays David Rose, his son, in the show. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, it honestly made me like the show even better because I think stuff like that is really cool. So. Yeah. But anyway, so they move to this small town, and that's really it. I mean, now they're just living there.
Everything else happens in Schitts Creek. Right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when they show up at first, they are all just like appalled by the surroundings. And honestly, looking back and watching it, David is the only one who's nice to people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, his sister Alexis is horrendous. And the first thing she does is get on the phone to her quote unquote boyfriend, Stavros, who is some rich dude that they've been dating for 3 months. David points it out and says, you've only been dating for 3 months. And she's like, oh my God, David, it will be 4 months next month. Like, that's the kind of person Alexis is. And she's obviously like the pretty girl who's been to all the big parties and has been very much the socialite. Like, she and David were both very social, but
you can afford
the first thing
it,
she does is get on the phone and is like, oh, Stavros is coming to get me. But she doesn't want to tell her parents that because he's only coming to get her.
Yep.
And then we find out very shortly after that Stavros ditches her because he already said he was going to Diddy's white party.
Yep. And it's just, and then he's gone. That's also something that I really like too.
He never comes up again. And we never meet Stavros. He's just like this character, this amorphous person out there.
But you hear things about him in the first 2-3 episodes, and again, maybe in the later seasons, I don't know. But he doesn't come back at the first season.
You don't hear about him ever again.
Nope, that's it. And you just hear really shitty things about him. Like, he sounds like a total asshole. And then he's gone. And
it's an ongoing joke that Alexis has made many bad decisions in who she dates.
Yes.
Like, she's never had a long-term relationship, and it's always been these famous pretty boys who treat her like shit. And I was trying to explain this to my husband yesterday, but Alexis keeps saying things that are like, oh, that one time when I was in Thailand and I ended up in a drug dealer's trunk and I had to promise him sex to get out.
Yep.
He was a perfect gentleman the entire time until he ran out of money. It's that kind of thing that she keeps. And then she's like, what? I was 14, and it's like.
No, the game is 2 truths and a lie.
It's true. So you've heard of it. You've heard of it.
Yeah, because babies play that at their birthday parties.
Okay, whatever. It's a good game. Okay? Now.
Okay. My eyes are brown. I am basically sample size. And one time I escaped from a Thai drug lord's car trunk by bribing him with sex.
Right idea, honey, but you know what? It's got to be more challenging for everybody in the room.
Aqua.
You did what?
Obviously, these parents have completely disconnected from their children's lives entirely. And that's what I was saying, was that part of the trope of it is that they're having a conversation where they're like, are we bad parents?
Yeah.
And
Johnny
says, no, we put them in all the best boarding schools. We hired all the best nannies. But like these parents don't know their kids
No.
at all. And like that's when the Rose video comes up, is he has them do a 2 truths and a lie, but he can't even explain like how to play it. And it was very entertaining. But he talks about like, oh, we used to do these team building exercises at Rose Video.
I guess I didn't pick up on him that it was like I didn't notice it was like a blockbuster thing, but yeah, because there's my favorite episode of the first season is where they're filming the TV commercial. Because of my background in advertising, I can relate to that episode 1,000,000%. But there's also there's a quick joke right in the beginning that I also really loved. So like you said, I think like the IRS and the feds they're in the mansion of the Rose family, and they're taking everything because, you know, again, there's illegal actions within the company. And then somebody is talking to Moira, the mother character, and they say something to the effect of like, there was one asset that you're allowed to keep. And she goes, oh my God, is it the children? And she's like, those are
the kids.
Yeah, she's like, oh, the kids. And she's like, those are your children, man. Like, those are dependents. Those aren't assets. Like,
oh.
And she's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
There is a very small amount set aside for you, and one asset the government has allowed you to retain.
The kids.
The children are dependents, Moira.
Well, she's also like having her servants pack her wigs, and she's like, oh my God, did you put Sally in with Susan? They don't like each other.
They do not talk to each other. Yes.
Her wigs have separate personalities, and like, oh man.
She's funny. I didn't understand the wig thing. Is it just like a was there a reason, or was it just like a character trait of hers?
I think it's just a character trait, because she has hair. And this goes to a conversation. Can I go on a tangent for a second?
Absolutely.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is trans and ended up has been buying wigs.
Okay.
And she was saying that you go into stores, and if there's a white lady behind the counter, it's a sad situation, because no white ladies buy wigs unless something has gone terribly wrong.
That is, yeah, okay.
Right? Whereas when you look at the Black community, wigs are so accepted as just being part of the accoutrement that a woman wears. And that's how Moira treats her wigs. They're just another accessory. They're just part of a look she's going for at the time.
Social status, kind of, yeah, class, and yeah, okay, I get that now. That makes sense. Well, and
if you watch the listeners, if you watch the show, she dresses in such a fantastical way. Like, it's so inappropriate for the place they're living. It's so like high fashion in a way.
And like a lot of that, and then even that generalized humor extends into the show across the board. They all like, you know, she wears, like, she's dressed into the nines to go to like the town restaurant, which is a bakery, you know, like a very small town little mom and pop diner. Yeah. And she is wearing this dress that's probably thousands of dollars, and they definitely stand out.
And now that you point this out, she really dresses like the character from Beetlejuice. Like, lots of black and white, lots of geometric patterns, like.
And I kind of felt a lot of that character from Beetlejuice. I can't remember the mom's name in Beetlejuice. It's been forever since I've seen it, but I feel like some of that character came out a little bit in this show, because they are kind of similar. Rich, snobby people in a place where they're, you know, not in their comfort zone.
Yeah, entirely.
But yeah, I like this show. I will definitely finish it. It's a simpler show, but again, I don't say that as like that's not a bad thing. I'm not a person who equates simple to being bad. It's simple because it's like it's very surface level. It's just like, this is what this show's about. We are here to make you laugh, and God damn it, that's exactly what it did.
It's exactly what it does. And like, I find myself like rolling around laughing when I watch this show, because it's so, I don't know, it's simple, but it's smart.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, it's not, I don't know, some of it's dumb humor, I guess, but it is really smart in a lot of ways. And I really like that about it.
And I like too, again, there's no objective to the show. There's really not, at least in the first season. I mean, really the only thing was like survive and try to sell the town if you can.
Right, and it's culture shock, right? The whole first season is them adjusting, because so they come into this town and they're just sure they're going to leave as soon as possible, and so the first thing that they do is Johnny and Moira decide that they're going to sell the town, and so they have to drop the papers, and they have to go to Roland, the mayor, to get him to sign off on the papers, and they're forced to eat dinner with him and his wife.
Yep.
Roland says, "If you want this signed, you're going to come to dinner with me and my wife," and it's so awkward. But what they find out at that dinner is that it took 20 years. The town was on the market for 20 years before Johnny bought it as a joke.
Yep, for his son. Yep.
And so there's like they come to this realization that we may be stuck here for a while. And so the rest of the show is really about them coming to terms with that.
Yes.
And finding their places in the town.
Mm-hmm. And I had like a weird feeling when it got to that point in the show. I was like, in my head, I kind of was thinking, okay, this is going to be, okay, now we need to spruce the town up.
Right.
And then in doing so, we're going to fall in love with the town. That is where I thought it was going to go. That, okay, we're going to buy the restaurant, but we're going to make it a very swanky restaurant that does cheese and wine and grapes and artisanal cheeses. And then we're going to buy the mayor's house and turn it into this yada, yada, yada. But that's not it at all.
They have no money to do anything.
Nope, they don't do anything. They are literally just surviving in a motel room, slowly adapting to the life around them and meeting the townsfolk. And again, it's kind of like it's like a I used to give it it's like a paint bucket, a little bit of one color blends in with the next, and that's the show.
It is. They try and spruce up the town. The first thing that they attack is that they decide they need to change is a sign.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
On the outskirts of town that says "Welcome to Schitts Creek."
Yep.
And it shows a man standing behind a woman who is bending over into the river, and it says like Schitts Creek, where everyone fits in.
Yep.
And it looks like they're having sex. It looks like they're having sex, and Johnny complains about it, and he has, long story short, he ends up having to bring Roland out there because it's Roland's family. It's like his great-great-grandfather. And he says, well, it looks like he's fucking your great-great-grandmother up the ass. And he goes, oh, Johnny, I see where the problem is. That's not my great-great-grandmother. That's his sister.
That's his sister, yep.
And he's like, well, how would anybody driving down the road know that that's his sister? Yep. And he's like, cool, I'll fix it. And when they come back, there's a sign next to it that says, it's okay, it's his sister.
Yep, it's okay, it's his sister. Yep. And then it's just like problem solved. That's it.
Problem solved. But like that's the whole attitude is like, yes, they try and change the town, but the town is not having it.
No. At
all. They like the way things are.
Yep. They've been content, they've been happy, and
there's nothing wrong with the town.
No.
Like, there's nothing that needs to be fixed. It's just that it doesn't fit their aesthetic,
Exactly. And that's another thing that I was kind of waiting for in the show was like, oh, by the way, this town has a sewage problem and it's slowly sinking into a swamp. And then again, they were going to have to fix it. Like, that's just where my brain was going as I was watching this. And again, it's like, nope, the town is fine. Like, there's small towns and they hunt deer and drink beer and party loudly in motel rooms. But like, hey, guess what? People do that in life. You may not, but there are people right now doing those exact same things. And that's where the show's like heart definitely sinks in, is that it's like it is okay. It's okay to be both. It's okay to be a rich city snobby person, and it's okay to be a weird small town whatever, right. And it's okay, because I think that as long as at the end of the day there's these little moments of like understanding one another and acceptance. One of my favorite moments of acceptance in the show, Moira goes, oh my gosh, so Roland is the mayor.
Oh,
Roland's wife. I think it's Jocelyn or Joycelyn.
It's Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Yeah, it's Jocelyn.
So Moira and Jocelyn go get a haircut. And she comes back And her haircut looks exactly like Jocelyn's. And she's like, I hate it. I hate this haircut. I hate it. I look exactly like Jocelyn. Apparently, this hairstylist can only do one haircut.
That makes everybody look like that. And it is that, like, it's very, like, it's like an 80s style. It's just out of era. Like,
yes.
It's not like it's a terrible haircut. It's just out of era.
It's just not modern. Yes.
Not very modern.
Yep. Everything is from, like, the late 80s. And, but then Jocelyn and Moira have this it's very quick, but Jocelyn says to her something to the effect of, like, I know you hate this haircut and I understand why you hate it, but I like it. And, I'm paraphrasing here, but and that's the acceptance right there. Mm-hmm. Who gives a shit if Jocelyn likes her hair like that and that the barber can only do one cut? Because at the end of the day, they're still eating dinner and they're living their lives the way that they want to. And that's what I do like about the show is it is about acceptance, and that at the end of the day, if we can all just kind of sit down and talk to one another, we find out we have more in common than we probably assume that we do.
Yes.
And that's where the show is catching. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was going to follow that theme. There's probably my favorite scene out of the entire show that I show to people when I'm like, you need to watch this show because it's very clever, is so one of my favorite parts of the show is the friendship that David and Stevie establish. And it happens early on that he's like, I think you're kind of funny. Like, I think you don't suck. And she's like, well, you don't suck as bad as everybody else either. And they end up hanging out, but a series of events happen and they get really stoned together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they end up hooking up. And afterwards, they're in a wine shop.
Yes, I was going to bring this up too, but yeah, keep going. Yes.
God, I love it. I love it. So they're buying wine for a party. And the thing that you realize early on is that David definitely reads as being more stereotypically gay.
Yes.
Right? Like he and you think from the beginning that he probably is. Mm-hmm. But she says they're picking out wine and she says, I thought you liked red wine.
Yep.
And he said, I do. And she was like, but I also am a red wine drinker.
Yep.
And up until last night, I thought that you were exclusively a red wine drinker. And he said, oh, I see where you're going with that. And his explanation of pansexuality is so amazing because he says, I like red wine. I also like white wine. I also occasionally sample a rosé. One summer, I hooked up with a Merlot that used to be a Chardonnay.
Yep.
And she was like, oh, so you just like wine.
Yes.
And he was like, I like wine. I like the wine, not the label. And I was like, that's so beautiful. And then there's a conversation later that his dad has with Roland where he says, my son is pansexual. Mm-hmm. And Roland says, oh, right, that's that cookware fetish.
Yeah. And he's like,
and so they immediately dumb it back down again.
Yep. And he's like, no, he's like, Roland, that's not it. And he's like, I'm pretty certain that's it.
I'm pretty sure that's it. Like, Roland is the one who is just like
not
obstinately obtuse. Like, just definitely doesn't give up on how stupid he is sometimes. But
I'm glad you brought that up.
Accepting.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was my favorite point. And again, I've only watched the first season. That was my favorite part in the whole show because like you said, it was done so well that it's not embarrassing, it's not awkward, it's not like quick funny tangent. Okay, you ready? Mm-hmm. I don't know. Did you see Marvel's last movie, The Endgame? Mm-hmm. There's this scene in the movie that everybody talks about where it's like the pro-female scene. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, it's awkward and cringy, and some people are like, well, it's awesome and you should do it. And like when it comes to like again modern issues, people want to put it in their storytelling, and no matter what, that scene, like I'm glad they did it, but it was noticeable. And It's like when you kind of like push ideologies of new trends and progression in movies, you can sometimes feel it. We were briefly talking in between this episode again of like how actors sometimes act and you can just feel it. It's not authentic. It's not real. And that scene when she's explaining, I only drink red wine, and but at this point thought you only drink red wine. I was like, that's a really great way of again saying it without like labeling, pointing fingers, and even saying like you're wrong if you agree or even disagree with the statement. It just is what it is, and Stevie accepts him for that, and they move on. Fine from that. So,
and one of the things later in the show is that David ends up in a relationship with a man, and it was the one thing that when I was talking about like these opportunities for embarrassment that never really happen, is you keep waiting for somebody to have a problem with it.
Okay.
But like nobody really does.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it's just like they're treated like a normal couple, like any other couple.
It's not thrown in your face or anything.
No, and you keep waiting because it's this small town America. Oh, all the prejudice in small town America, but they and that was one of the things that also felt like not super realistic to me. But also, this whole show is not super realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked that. As an ideal that they just kind of everything was fine and everybody was happy for them, and like it's great.
And it's like it's almost the inverse, because that has been done in movies and books and shows and the like, where again, rich man, lost his fortunes and now he's with us, the common folk, and he has to learn to adapt. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that's not what this is about. Actually, it's almost like weirdly kind of the inverse, where like the town was normal and now they're being introduced to rich asshole snobs and they have to deal with it. Like they're
the weirdos. They're the absolute weirdos. Yeah.
And but yeah, it's definitely it's like we were talking about with Evans Family. Obviously, they do a really good job with understanding character as the show goes on. I really like David. I like David and Stevie a lot. They were my favorite parts to watch, at least again in the first season. Their dynamic is awesome, of how they riff off each other and pick on each other, but again in a very fun way. It very much reminded me of my relationship with my girlfriend Nat. We like to pick on each other, and that's how we sync. That's how when she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna punch you in your teeth," like I know what she means. She's saying I love you.
Right. There's a respect underneath of it.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be mean.
No. And but yeah, it was a very good show. I know this is a very popular show. I was talking to a friend of mine asked me some of the things lined up for this podcast, and I brought up Schitts Creek, and right away he was like, "Oh, I love that show." He said it was in his like top 5 favorite comedy shows. So I think this is very popular. I'm not on the radar of
like they really did well, and like people were really waiting for they said like this is the final season, was the 5th season, and somebody asked, where was it? Oh, it was on Hot Ones. Do you ever watch Hot Ones?
No.
Hot Ones is a great YouTube show for anybody who's never watched it, where a guy, I can't remember the guy's name who is the host, but he interviews celebrities while eating progressively hotter hot wings.
Oh, I've seen it promoted for me, but I haven't watched it. I'll check it out. Yeah. Yep, I know what you're talking about.
It's very funny. And during like pandemic times, he's been doing it where they like ship the hot wings to the person's house and they do it via Zoom. And he did one with Daniel Levy, and he was talking about, why did you guys end Schitts Creek? Like, why? And he was just like, to be honest, it just felt like the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like it was a natural ending, and we didn't want to push it past that. And I think that's the joy of this show, is that nothing feels super forced. When it's like the comedy, it's not like they're taking it. Usually when I watch a show, there's like a couple of seasons that I'm like, that season sucks.
Yep.
You can skip that season and go to the next one or whatever, especially shows like I think of Supernatural right off the bat because that's one of my favorite shows, but there's definitely seasons where I was like, oh, that jumped the shark. Like that went really too far. But this show doesn't. Like it stays the same level of quality and funny through the whole thing.
That's cool. And I agree 1,000,000%. There are shows that they run their course and it's just stop. Like I couldn't even tell you the last time I saw a Simpsons episode, because it's just like just stop. I can't. It's just so hard to keep up with. But that's where shows like Breaking Bad, man, 5 seasons done, and there's not.
Yeah, they just told the story.
Yep, and like every episode in that show you need that episode. And so that type of storytelling I love, because I'm a person that believes in 1,000,000% that quality over quantity any day. I would rather have 5 great seasons of Breaking Bad than 2 million seasons of an okay Simpsons or whatever. I'm not trying to shit on that show, but it's just coming to mind. So,
right. Well, some of these shows just run forever because people like them.
Yeah.
And then you lose quality in some places, and then you pick it back up again, and then you lose it again, and you pick it back up again, you know.
They also have 2, I noticed they have like on Netflix, because I started watching, like I recommended, there's a like an hour, maybe 2-hour long documentary on Netflix right now about the creation of the show. So I will definitely check that out. Yeah, it just popped up in my news feed because I'm watching Schitts Creek on Netflix.
Right.
So it was like, hey, you might like this, and it's interviews with Eugene and Dan Levy again on the creation of the show, and I think it's just like a little interview / documentary about it. So that might be worth checking out too.
Yeah, the actual longest relationship was a 3-month affair with a Saudi prince, but for the last 2 months of that, I was trapped in his palace trying to get to an embassy.
I love Alexis. She's so vapid, but she has heart when it comes down to it, but she's so self-absorbed. Like, one of my favorite Alexis quotes is like, "Oh my God, I love that journey for you."
Yes. Yes.
And it's just like, she's so vapid, but like there's 2 men in the town that she becomes interested in. And the first one is Mutt, who is like a very sexy man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
but is like big beard, collects compost, lives in a barn, kind of off the grid kind of dude. And then the other one is, what is the vet's name?
I can't remember. Toby or Tony or Todd?
Todd? Yeah, I think it's Todd.
I think it's Todd.
I think it is Todd. And he is like, David gets taken to him because he's having a panic attack. And Stevie's like, he's like, "Do we have a doctor?" And she's like, "Not really."
Yeah, not what you're thinking.
She takes him to the vet, and the vet is like, "You're having a panic attack." And he's like, "Oh, no. That's just what rich people do as a publicity stunt. You know, they're very real."
Yes.
But anyway, he ends up going out with Alexis too. And like, there's this interesting dynamic between this like free thinker and this like very controlled, very trying to adult.
Yeah. And so at first, like, cause she goes into his house and it's like, you know, it's not my taste, but it's well decorated. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, like you got your life together." And he's like, "Yeah." But then as the show keeps going on, he's like, "Oh yeah, no, you just like open up a magazine and you like click like what you want." So I just clicked like Lone Bachelor, and this is what they sent
right.
me.
It's like a company that sells you. It's like a display room.
Yep. So it just like sells you your identity at the cost of whatever you want to pay. Yeah.
His whole identity is just this made up kind of thing that he just wants to be. And he's one of those people who is like lives in this small town but wants to rise above it. And he ends up being a really interesting character.
Okay.
And again, like these really kind of vapid characters end up developing so much depth as time goes on.
Because they get, spoiler alert, whatever. Alexis and Todd, they're engaged at the end, and then there's a really funny joke where she says, "If I were to stay, you know, I would marry you, but I have to go," because they think they've sold the town. You know, spoiler alert, they didn't. And the show does end with her talking to Mutt saying, "Now I have to go back to him because we're staying." So I am interested to see where that goes.
I have to go back because he gave me a ring.
It's just funny.
Well, and of course, Alexis being Alexis, like they've been dating for like two or 3 months, and she says, "Well, this is the longest relationship that I've been in consensually." Yep. And he's like, "Consensually?" And she's like, "Well, I did date this prince in Saudi Arabia, but the second 2 months I was a prisoner in his house trying to find an embassy."
Yep. Trying to get out.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, it's just so funny.
There's also too with that same notion about like she has these like random moments where you hear, like, she sounds like a total, like, party animal, and that's how she's getting in these situations. But the thing that I also like about the kids a lot is you don't know their age. And I don't think you're really supposed to, because there's moments where they're adults, but there are moments where they are kids. They're treated like children, and they even act like children too. So it's like are they fresh out of high school, or are they like in their mid to late 20s? You know what I mean? Like, it's
right. They definitely act like they're like they don't have life experience, and the life experience that they have, we're finding, is like more and more fake as time goes on. You know, like David ran an art gallery, and at some point Alexis throws it in his face like, who do you think bought all your art?
Yo.
Mom and Dad just have like a room in the house that's full of all this art they bought to make you. And so their parents had been like weirdly neglecting them, but also sheltering them. And at one point they do talk about David's age, because he says something about like, Alexis, I'm 36, and she says, you're 36. He says, I'm practically 29. Like, and you're like, no.
Because they definitely do not act it at all.
Oh, they act like children, but they all act like children. Like that first time that Moira has a breakdown, and like she reads about herself on the internet. So Moira was a really famous like soap opera star.
Okay.
But I forget the name of the show. But they talk about it in the scene where they're having dinner with Roland and his wife.
Yeah, and she talks about how she was a fairly well-known actor.
Yeah, she was very well known for this character she played, a particular character role, and she's ever since then been trying to like recapture that. In the second season, she stars in a movie called The Crows Have Eyes.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
funny.
Horrible horror movie. So funny.
And then there's that episode. Yeah, there's the episode because she says that she's an actor, and then there's the TV commercial episode. That one to me was the funniest. There was the they're trying to sell the town local wine. It was the fruit wine that he was like, yeah, we don't use like insect repellent or any chemicals. And there's a part where she's like drinking the wine, and she's like, I'm pretty certain there are bugs in this wine right now.
And he was like, oh, that's a ladybug. That's one of the good ones.
And she has to be the main face, the actor, for a TV commercial shoot that they are filming in town with a very, very, very low production. And I can tell you 1,000,000% that I've been on low-end TV commercial shoots, and I've been on high-end TV shoots, and both are miserable. So that was hilarious because, like you said, Johnny, the dad, her husband, he had worked in video before, so now he's throwing in his business professional expertise, but it's out of the range of and scope of the budget of this commercial. It's totally disconnected. But I've been in those boats. I've been in that boat where there is somebody like, oh, I worked on this, I worked on that once. It's like, dude, we're filming a local wine TV. Just shut up. You know what I mean? Like, and her like over dramatizing herself as an actor in it. Oh my God. Yeah. That episode,
Hirschlinger, and she's so worried about it that she ends up getting really drunk. And he just comes in, Johnny comes in, and he's like, look, the show that you were on, you were drunk through most of the third season and the fifth season and probably the finale. And she's like, you're right, I can do this. And so she's drunk when they finally shoot it, and she can't say Bert Hirschlinger fruit wine.
That was it. Yes. And
It's so funny.
she just like ends up just cracking up by the end of it. Oh yeah.
She flubs it over and over and over again. Yeah. And it's that kind of stuff. Like it's silly humor, but it's so clean. It's so well done.
And it works.
It really, really works.
But I would say, yeah, it's an easy show. It's an easy show to swallow. It's a good show to just like, this is a perfect show where like if you had a bad day at work, just come home and put this on. Yeah, put your feet up on your favorite chair, your favorite sofa, hang out with your dog, have a glass of wine. Show's perfect. It'll take away every bad day that you've had. It'll help alleviate that a little bit. I always kind of like to talk about too, like, again, if there's like we mentioned it, I guess, already, but like if you watch How I Met Your Mother, I would say this is a show people could definitely fall into.
Sure. Yeah. How I Met Your Mother, New Girl, like maybe The Office even,
Yeah.
like that kind of
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Yeah, that kind of like popcorn television. I'm sure, yeah, you would really like this. And again, I said this in our F is for Family, but like 3-episode test. They're 30-minute episodes. Watch at least 3 of them. If you're not hooked, then whatever, but like I definitely took that the first episode is just set up, you know? And after that it just gets so much better. So it follows the model of how you actually get to know people, right? It's the whole first season is like surface introductions. And then as you get into later, it's more about people's backstories and like, why are you the way you are? And like, as a counselor, that's really interesting to me because I always want to know why everybody is the way they are. Kind of everybody has their own little backstory, you know, like in the first season, even they talk about Roland and Jocelyn being Mutt's parents and like how that's working, you know, and that becomes its own little storyline. And so like it all kind of gets more complicated as it goes on.
Yes. And it's a lot of the character's backstory gets introduced by doing things too, which is there's the old saying in storytelling, especially in movies and television, which is, you know, show don't tell. And it's instead of hearing about Stevie going on these hunting trips, she takes David on the hunting trips. And that type of story that you know, that sounds simple, but I can't tell you how many movies and TV shows do that now, where you just say it and then I guess that's it. A very quick example is Poe Dameron from the new Star Wars movies. They're like, oh, he's a great pilot. It's like, okay.
Good to know.
You remember when Han Solo was a great pilot? We saw him fly through fucking asteroids while TIE fighters were chasing him. That's cool as shit. But Poe Dameron's like, okay, he's a good pilot because they told us he was.
Because they said he was.
Yeah. That's my quick rant. But that's what I like with Schitts Creek is it's like Stevie likes to hunt and drink beer, get wasted, and make out with dudes. And guess what? That's what she does. So
well, and instead of talking about her shitty family, her shitty family comes in for a wedding and like they have to clean the hotel room after them and like
no, it was the funeral.
Oh, it's a funeral.
That was the funeral. Right. That episode was hilarious.
That was so good. Oh my god.
They asked Johnny to say a word at the funeral and I don't know if he did meet that character, but I know we as the audience didn't. So you're kind of then to conclude that Johnny didn't meet this character as well. And now he's to say
Johnny didn't know the guy who died.
Oh, it's so funny.
And he just ends up like having a complete breakdown on the thing on the podium, and he's talking about how this guy died in Schitts Creek, and we're all gonna die in
Schitts Creek. Yep.
Not just die, but die in Schitts Creek. And then like Moira just stands up in the audience and starts singing Danny Boy.
Danny Boy.
To see him. Also, Moira and Johnny's love affair is so gorgeous. It's kind of an awkward way, but like they're so in love with each other, and it's very refreshing to see that, like, you know, like they role play and they're silly with each other, and like they're very supportive of each other all the time, and it's super interesting.
I agree, and I think it could be very easy to make a show where, you know, she's mad at him because of the business decisions that he made, and he could be mad at her because she forced him into said business decisions, and they're angry at each other. And yeah, no, they love each other. They're there for each other. And they have a working relationship. A lot of TV shows, especially those that pertain to money, which that's not what the show's about, but it's definitely there. Have that. Like right away, I'm thinking of again Mad Men. You know, Don Draper has major issues with his wife because he's such a successful, rich, powerful, you know, man that's where they just rely. But yeah, that's a great point to make. Is that and then it's Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara together on screen.
Such great chemistry.
They're awesome.
It's such good chemistry.
Yeah, they are definitely awesome to watch. And yeah, it's a breath of fresh air. It's a feel good show, and it's awesome. I like it. I look forward to watching more. So, So yeah, well, I think that's it. I still
Cool.
don't know how to end this.
It's becoming a theme.
I still haven't figured it out. Just play the end music. We're done. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me. This is really fun.
Yeah, everybody again. Yeah, this is Zeke. This is my good friend Zeke. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it a lot, and thanks for sharing Schitts Creek. And yeah, thank you also to everybody listening at home or on your phones or whatever you're doing this on. I do appreciate it as well, and we will see you all next time.
Bye.
Who brings the muskmelon goodness to his oak Chardonnay and the dazzling peach bat pull to his Riesling Rioja. Come taste the difference good fruit can make in your wine. You'll remember the experience, and you'll remember the name, Herb Ervlinger, Bert Herngreif, Irv Herblinger, Bing Livehanger, Liveling, Bert Herkern.
You